What's up, Louis? It's South Africa here. Hope you are doing great. In this video, I'm going to talk about why a multi-let property strategy is so powerful, especially in South Africa. I'm also going to share a bit more details about the single let and why this strategy might work for you. I believe that constant and never-ending improvement is the only way that you can reach your goals, become a better you, and ultimately grow your net worth. So if you want to learn more about property investing, please consider subscribing to this channel and sharing it with friends and family that you know want to learn more as well. With that said, I've been investing in property for quite some time now, and believe me, I have paid my school fees with mistakes. I started with your traditional property strategy, which is called a single let strategy, and eventually I moved on to multi-let properties. And I primarily focus on multi-lets now, but I still own my single-let properties. I wanted to make this video to share a few things that you need to be aware of with both single-lets and multi-let strategies. I'm also going to share a bit of the numbers, example of deals, and this will help you to see whether this strategy, whether it's the single-let or the multi-let, will work for your situation. Just remember, this is for entertainment purpose only. I'm not forcing you to do anything. I'm simply sharing information for free on YouTube. Personally, I'm always open to different opinions because ultimately this is how you can learn and improve your skills. So a single let property strategy is simply where you rent out a property to a single tenant. Imagine renting it out to one family, one individual, or simply one person paying you a rental income on a monthly basis. This specific strategy has made many multi-millionaires over the years, and it's a strategy that can still work today. Some of the reasons why a single let strategy still works today is because you have these deals readily available everywhere in South Africa. This means the supply is there, but you also have the demand for these properties. So you can effectively pick and choose as an investor to find the best deal for your situation. Another advantage is that these deals generally create a more stable income. It's because of the type of tenant that you ultimately attract. Most of the time it's working class people, people that are educated, maybe they have a family, and generally these people have great credit scores. So it's a great advantage to have a good paying tenant, because at the end of the day your rental income is like the blood flow to your property investment. Another massive advantage specifically for single lets is tax benefits. Although you can still have your normal tax deductions with single lets as well as multi-lets, the main advantage that you have with single lets is not being cash flow positive. So 99% of single let properties that has a loan on it is going to be cash flow negative, or in other words have a shortfall. That simply means you will have no bottom line profit. So at the end of the month, you are actually going to pay in money from your own pocket, and this can be used to offset your taxes in a financial year. Maybe you have a company with a high income already. You can use this to offset your taxes and ultimately reduce your tax obligations. Of course, these single let properties are considered longer term investments because you will only be able to benefit after 20 or 30 years once the property is paid off. Besides for your tax benefits, of course, this is more focused towards a longer term mindset. So it's not an easy way to get rich today. It's something that creates generational wealth, and it's a great way to build your net worth over a long period of time. Some of the key tips that I wanted to share when it comes to single let properties is to make sure that you buy these properties for as cheap as possible. This is something that I believe in because you make money from day one. If you buy a single let for, let's say, 10 or 20% cheaper than its listing price, it means that you are making money from day one, and it's ultimately increasing your profit and reducing your risk. So this is something that I love to do, is to always make lower offers. Another very important tip is to focus on buying these properties in the best locations. You've probably heard of location, location, location. And this is really important when it comes to single let, because this will determine the type of tenant that you have for your property, and focusing on buying in the right areas is going to help you quite a lot, especially in the longer term. Another important tip is to make sure that you place a good quality tenant. This is a no-brainer. Like I mentioned, if you don't have a good paying tenant or a tenant at all, you are effectively sitting with an investment that is not generating any income. And this is what happens quite often, and people end up selling properties at losses because they can't receive a stable income. I wanted to show you guys a typical deal or a typical single let property. And again, this is simply going to be an example. And what I've done is to go onto Property 24 and I've searched for a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom property in Randburg. And this is your traditional, your normal vanilla type of investment that people will buy, especially when they start out. I'm just going to quickly scroll through the photos. It's nothing special, but the demand for these properties are quite high. It's not the best looking property, but it looks quite decent. With that said, I went ahead and searched for properties to rent in the same area, and I actually found the exact complex with a property being rented out for 8,000 Rand per month. And like you can see, if I go back, here we can see the staircase on the one side, and here we can see the staircase on the property that is for rent. So yeah, I think the 8,000 Rand is an accurate number to use as a rental income. What I've done is to go to my Excel spreadsheet. I already entered all the information, and we are going to start at the top at the property value. I decided to make a lower offer of 680,000 Rand, meaning it creates an equity position of 70,000 Rand. Again, you make money from day one if you buy properties for cheaper than it's worth. Of course, we worked on a rental income of 8,000 Rand, and our bond repayment is going to be 6,475 Rand for property worth 680,000 Rand over a 30-year bond at prime interest rate. Then the levies is going to be 2,723 Rand, which is very, very expensive in my opinion. And this is probably due to the lack of good control in this specific complex. I haven't seen a complex that's in a good financial position in quite a long time. So it seems like in South Africa, this is just part of investing in sectional title properties. There's always problems when it comes to sectional title properties. If you haven't already, I made a separate video about sectional title properties if you want to find out the ins and outs. Then we get our rates and taxes, which is around 615 Rand. And then we won't add commission, because let's just say that you are able or you have the skills to rent out this property on your own, because it's only going to be a single family. At the end of the month, this property is going to cost you 9,813 Rand. And if we scroll down, we can see the once-off cost you need to pay, which is your bond and transfer, is going to be 55,000 Rand. And then at the bottom, our cash flow, or in this case, our shortfall, is going to be a negative 1,813 Rand. This means every month you'll have a shortfall of 1,813 Rand, or around 22,000 Rand in a year. And this is totally okay if you can afford this shortfall. We can argue that your tenant is effectively paying 8,000 Rand and you only have to pay 1,800 Rand from your own pocket. That doesn't seem too bad in my opinion, especially if you can pay off this property in 20 or 30 years, because then it will be clean cash flow. We also had to add a bit of repair cost, and I worked on a 5% repair cost, maybe painting, fixing some stuff, maintenance on the property. And that brings us to the return on investment. Using the total money in the deal of 89,000, it gives us a return on investment of negative 24.44%. Yes, it's not cash flow positive, but we can argue that this property will appreciate over time. We have some equity in the deal, and you only have to pay a portion of the investment. With that said, before we go on to our multi-let property strategy, I wanted to share a new and very exciting project with you guys, and I decided to leverage YouTube as a platform to use it for the greater good. I've decided to create a foundation called Raingrow Foundation, where we will be focusing on giving back to our local communities and helping the less fortunate. The main goal of this foundation would be to give away food parcels and care packages to people that needs it really badly. And at the end of the day, this will be our way to give back to our communities. There will be bigger projects coming in the near future where maybe we can focus on building quality homes for people that really need them. And before you freak out and think that I'm just asking for your money, for every donation I receive, I will double the amount using my own personal money. So the end goal would be to raise as much money as possible on a monthly basis to give back to our local communities. And of course, I'll be sharing some updates as we progress. So if you wanted to find out more about the details, the areas that we'll target, and the main focus that we have in mind, feel free to send me an email at louisreinhardt@gmail.com. And if you have it in your heart to give back, even if it's the smallest amount, you can donate the money into my PayPal account directly using my username louisreinhardt@gmail.com. Please just use your reference as foundation or Raingrow Foundation so that I know to allocate the money in the right area. So with that said, I hope that you guys are able or willing to contribute, and I'm looking forward to really grow this project. With that said, let's jump back into the fun stuff, and we're going to talk about multi-lets. A multi-let strategy is literally the opposite of a single-let strategy, and this is where you will rent out a property to multiple tenants instead of just one person. So that simply means instead of having one stream of income, you'll have a rental income from multiple people. And of course, it also has some pros and cons. And some of the pros for this property is that it increases your income potential because you have multiple tenants paying you on a monthly basis. This is obvious because we have multiple people, and generally multi-let strategies has the potential to cash flow on a monthly basis, whereas a single let property is a shortfall strategy. Then some people will argue that a multi-let strategy is less risky because you have multiple tenants, meaning if one person doesn't pay you, you still have other people that pays you on a monthly basis, whereas other people think that a multi-let strategy is automatically more risky. Let me know what you guys actually think. It also helps you to diversify your portfolio. Let's say you have 10 single let properties. It's not a bad idea to diversify into multi-let just to kind of switch things up a bit. Of course, there's also issues when it comes to multi-let strategies because it requires some higher investment costs initially. Of course, you'll have to repair, maintain the property, maybe add additional rooms, create an additional kitchenette or add on a bath. Whatever the circumstances is, there will be more money involved. Then some of my tips when it comes to multi-let strategies again is to make sure that you buy a multi-let strategy in a high demand area. Basically focusing on areas close to hospitals, malls and shopping centers, or even commercial areas where you know there's a lot of people being employed in that area. This will just help you to quickly find high paying tenants and people that are willing to pay what you are asking for. That brings me to my next point, making sure you use accurate numbers. If you want to run your numbers in an Excel sheet, make sure that your rental income is going to be realistic. We can't charge someone 10,000 Rand for a single room when there's a 3-bedroom building to rent for 10,000 Rand next door. So make sure that you understand the market and the demand in that area. Then of course, you need to make sure that your property looks good. This is very important because the better your property looks, the cleaner it is and the safer it feels, the easier it will be to tenant the property to a high paying tenant. With that said, let me quickly show you some of the numbers when it comes to a multi-let deal. And what I've done again is to jump onto Property 24 and I found a specific property in Bloubosrand in Randburg. And this is actually a bank mandated property. So it's a potential distressed seller. So we will probably be able to make a lower offer on this property. And I'm just going to quickly scroll through the photos and it looks like a pretty decent property, but of course there's a lot of work involved. We can obviously see in the kitchen here, There's some repairs and maintenance needed, but overall it looks pretty decent. So what I've done is I read through the details, and they said that it has a 2-bedroom property, which is the main house, and 4 separate flats, each with their own bathroom and small kitchenette, which creates the opportunity to rent out this property for working class people. I also checked and saw that the property is actually near hospitals, and it means that the potential is definitely there. What I've done is to use estimates on the rental income, and I'll show you guys what I found. So let's start at the top again. The value of the property is 1.65 million rand. I decided to make a lower offer of 20% discount, meaning 1.32 million. If they don't accept this offer, you can obviously just adjust it, and eventually they'll probably accept it. I worked on a rental income of 22,000 rand, meaning 6,000 rand for the main house plus 4,000 rand for every flat, which there is 4 of, bringing us to 22,000 rand. Our bond for a property worth 1.32 million at a 30-year bond at prime rate is going to be 12,570 rand. We don't have levies because it's a full title property. Our rates and taxes is quite low at 395. Of course, we'll have to confirm these rates and taxes numbers. Then we are going to have to pay commission. We won't be able to rent out this property on our own because it will have 5 separate tenants. So let's say we pay an agent 7% commission on our rental income, meaning it's 1,540 rand. We'll also have to include gardening because we have to maintain the general areas of this property. We won't include water. We can include Wi-Fi for around 1,000 rand. We can probably get a 50 meg fiber line, which is quite cheap in my opinion. That brings us to the total monthly cost of 16,205 rand. Or if we scroll down, we can see that the bond and transfer cost, or our once-off cost, is going to be 85,000 rand. Then at the bottom, our cash flow is going to be 5,795 rand on a monthly basis. So this is immediately a cash flow positive deal. And yes, maybe there's a few things that we can still add to this deal, which is going to reduce our cash flow. But to simplify this video, I just used the basics. The main thing we need to understand with a multi-let property like this is there will be more cost involved in the beginning. Maybe we need to repair some appliances, divide some rooms, repair some bathroom issues, plumbing or whatever it might be. I accounted for a 10% value of the property, which is 132,000 rand. And I also accounted for prepaid meters for water and electricity, so that we can split the electricity between all the tenants. The meters itself is quite cheap, but you need someone that is qualified to install it for you so that you actually do it the right way. That brings us to the money in the deal worth 222,000 rand. And if we divide our yearly cash flow with the money in the deal, we get to a 31.32% return on investment, which compared to a single let is obviously much higher. One of the things that we need to understand is that we are sacrificing appreciation in the longer term to receive cash flow in the shorter term. So this strategy, of course, is focused more on receiving money now compared to receiving money in the future. With that said, if you buy in a high demand area, you maintain your property on a yearly basis, you will still receive some appreciation as well as receive your monthly cash flow. With that said, if you wanted to find out more about either multi-lets or single-let strategies, feel free to enroll in my property investment course, where I talk about all the important things from the beginning up until the end where you buy your property, so that you make sure that you avoid making basic mistakes. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.